committed a crime, and now I have to free you, kiss your hand, and apologize for the inconvenience. Your Grace.
I did tell you that Mr. Vogel and I were innocent. I emphasized it in my statement.
Your statement? Thanks to some bigwigs who work for the so-called good of the country by releasing fleas like you. Thank God we have Vogel in this letter. Once I get to that goldfish, I'll...
Bigwig? Oh, my wretched brother Mycroft and his long nose.
Wait, did you say Mycroft? Mycroft Holmes? Are you the youngest son of Violet Holmes, rest her soul?
You knew my mother?
Not personally, no. Not exactly. I was working on the paperwork for that case.
Would you happen to remember anything of the events?
Well, I didn't make the inquiry, but I remember seeing some notes. Why?
You must help me. It would mean a great deal to me if you could find any information about that day.
Huh. Got you hooked, right? You know what? Stark and the others think they're the smartest here, thanks to you. Let me get this straight. Are you listening to me, lad?
I'm all ears.
Take this case. Report to me only, to Constable Harvey Oswald. I'll leave everything I have on this table. Find the murderer. Be a real copper. Question the suspects, make them sing, give me something substantial.
And if Mr. Vogel is not a suspect?
If he's innocent, then you can take your favourite degenerate away from here. If you slip or mess with the evidence, then trust me, your brother won't save you from my bludgeon. Meanwhile, I'll be checking the archive for you. If anybody asks, then you're a consulting detective.
Let's make a start then, partner.
I'm glad we managed to get the scoop before the raid.
Después de la declaración de un testigo del ritual satánico que dice haber ya hallado un cadáver, la redada en la mansión de Manchillo estaba garantizada. Resultó el arresto de varios sospechosos y la dispersión de un grupo de gente sorprendido en plenos actos de imprudencia y comportamiento contra natura. El cadáver de la víctima se halló en un altar con un cuchillo en el pecho y los agentes identificaron a la víctima. Fabio, 20 años, artista local. Sospechoso arrestado. Vogel. Tenía una carta de naturaleza ofensiva en su poder, dirigida a la víctima. Asegura haber hallado el cadáver. Es conocido por su personalidad excéntrica. Sherlock Holmes llevó el arma del crimen, una daga con la sangre de la víctima y otras pruebas. Lo invitó otro sospechoso, Vogel. Suponemos que para obstruir la investigación oficial. En Manchillo, el dueño de la mansión y organizador de la fiesta satánica, pagó a la víctima para participar en el ritual. Tenía acceso al escenario del crimen. Matista, la socia de Fabio, participante en el ritual, intentó huir y se resistió al arresto. Tenía un libro con la descripción del ritual que se llevó a cabo en la sala del altar. Algunos de los invitados están retenidos temporalmente para interrogador.
Back on track to solve the case.
Yo, Santo Pinchetti, actuando en calidad de testigo, informo de la sospecha de un asesinato en la mansión Manchillos en Gran Sarai. Durante la preparación de una reunión social, oí unos ruidos provenientes de la sala de altar. Inmediatamente pensé en el sacrificio de un ser vivo supervisado por el mismísimo Kurt Manchillos. Había sangre por las paredes, símbolos extraños y una daga atravesando un corazón. Tan rápido como pude pensar con claridad, me dirigí corriendo a la comisaría para informar de mi hallazgo. La comisaría respondía a las declaraciones enviando una patrulla, mientras que el testigo se marchó a casa. ¿Cómo sabía? Porque si había música, ¿cómo podían escuchar todo ese ruido? Sospechoso. El portador de este recuerdo tiene permiso para exponer todas las pruebas del caso número 6260. Pinchetti es sospechoso y habría que arrestarlo e interrogarlo. Tiene una llave que no mencionó en su declaración. Es que...
Look, I found Werner.
Werner, are you all right?
Oh, yes. Everything's fine. In fact, it's something of a family reunion. My brother spent quite some time in this place himself.
You should not be here. I told the police everything I knew, but they refused to let you go. They require proof to free you.
Ha! What did you expect? The mighty Sherlock Holmes swans in, tells the officers what to think, and the world obeys?
Of course not. Anyway, I struck a deal with the constable, and I've got a free hand in the investigation. I find proof to solve the case for him. He obtains files about my mother's death for me.
Well done. If one has the power or will and can act, then one must. I wonder, suppose you couldn't get the proof to your truth. Would you tell a lie to the guard that enabled my freedom, knowing my innocence? Would that not be just?
There are lines I will not cross, Werner. I will do my best to secure your release, but with proof, not deception.
Really? How many white lies have you told on this island? Why not for me? Why not another?
That is absurd. I can resolve this without compromises. Do not give up hope.
I can't follow you here. I can't follow you here. I'm not supposed to know anything about this.
I have learned who told the police about the crime. It was Santos Pinchetti,
Do I know him?
the major domo of the manor. He cleans up after you.
Well, then he does his job perfectly. All but invisible. I couldn't tell you the first thing about him.
Any progress with the case, Mr. Holmes?
Did you hear Basilio Coppello is...
He oído que han arrestado a Basilio Coppello, el propietario de la famosa compañía de seguridad doméstica Armut Coppello. Su situación es bastante peculiar. Han hallado muerto a un hombre llamado Nicole Detty dentro de una caja fuerte del establecimiento de Basilio. Basilio dice que es inocente, pero las pruebas están en su contra. Está detenido en los calabozos de la comisaría.
Let's pretend to be cops, eh? We can just stand around and look confused.
Good day. Your ticket, please, if you want me to help you. Don't you understand what a ticket is? Don't waste my time. Don't waste my time.
I'd like to check the evidence from this case.
And who are you?
Oswald sent me. I'm a consulting detective.
His partner, then? Let me see. Ah, a ritual murder. What a bunch of degenerates. Wait a second. I'll bring it to the table.
An emergency kit for boredom.
La carta que había en la caja de pruebas de Bogger. ¿Está bien de la cabeza? No puede controlar la amargura, al menos no cuando yo estoy cerca. Para mí es demasiado arriesgado ignorar esa clase de comportamiento. Era comportamiento, ¿no? De la broma. Yo puedo estar donde me plazca, o hablar o jugar con quien me plazca. No soy otra artista. Usted me paga, pero no me ha comprado. Desde luego, me quedaré con todas sus generosas donaciones, aunque apenas me compense por sus terribles estallidos. Le dejo, aunque Matista seguirá con usted, Fabio.
Not the time for privacy. It's a miracle this ruby hasn't tempted anyone. A heavily perfumed handkerchief with the initials KM in the corner. All the keys of the mansion on one golden ring. A handcrafted charm that contains hair and nail clippings. Her key to the altar room.
El poder de la sangre.
That's not for bedtime reading. This ex libris belongs to Manchio's library.
El poder y mandrágora. La policía halló este libro de ocultismo en el bolso de Matista durante el arresto. A juzgar por el ex libris, pertenece a la colección de Manchios. Contiene ilustraciones y descripciones de un ritual similar al del escenario del crimen. Prepara el cuerpo desnudo del objeto de interés recientemente fallecido. Dibuja símbolos de Marte y Venus para amplificar el poder que posees, para usar la fuerza de la naturaleza, masculina y femenina. Atraviésale el corazón con una daga de oro para librarse de la sangre que no te ama. Dibuja un símbolo representando tu amor. Mientras espera la resurrección, recita el cántico.
The book describes a ritual similar to the one performed in the altar room. Werner's personal sketchbook. Thank you, officer. Good day, Mr. Manchios. I am Constable Oswald's partner in this investigation.
Be quick and gentle. Some of your colleagues are untrained boors. Although I don't mind meeting young officers. The new blood here.
If you cooperate in finding Fabio's murderer, there will be no need to meet with the boars again.
That voice. Werner's friend? You're the policeman. What a disappointment.
Only an undercover agent can scour a ditch full of deviants. I am a consulting detective, although I'm capable of replacing the entire department through my consultations.
Sharp-tongued, I like it. May I presume this tongue will get us out of this trouble? I would be so indebted and glad to repay you.
Nothing's changed. I'm looking for the murderer. That's the only way to get us out of trouble.
But it shouldn't take much time, correct? We're all busy, after all.
I need to examine you first.
Lleva maquillaje. Ilusión por exposición al tinte del pelo. Se lava las manos con prisa. Cuero curtido de calidad, carísimo. Un martillo es sumamente rico. Y figuró. Es el organizador de fiestas de la élite de Cordona y el propietario de la mansión de Manchio. Se pasa la vida en compañía de gente igual de privilegiada. Sin embargo, ser tan solidario en cierta forma lo ha vuelto cauto con respecto a su salud. Usa químicos y se teñe el pelo para mantener limpio y mejorar su aspecto, hasta el punto de que se provoca daños cutáneos.
You are so focused on cleanliness that these products are severely damaging your skin.
I would laugh at you. Ha! If only my cheeks didn't hurt. Not exactly. I try to take care of my body. A young man who has yet to confront his own aging couldn't hope to understand.
These chemicals are quite literally melting your face.
Ah, the price of beauty. I'll be fine, I'm sure of it.
Such a methodical man who cares for his body but misses the soap under his fingernails. Are you so impatient or perhaps even impulsive?
I wouldn't call myself that. Silly little details. If I missed it, it wasn't important. Or rather, it was less important than who or what I was focused on.
Mr. Vogel told me a little about your parties, but I would like to know more directly from you.
I'm all yours, Sherlock. You have me arrested and locked here, with you alone.
Why did you invite Mr. Vogel as your special guest?
He's a pretty fellow. He's capable of surprising the public. He has a talent for saying words that no one else would wish to either say or hear.
I suppose I can't argue with that.
He is a free addition to the eccentricity of the party, which is fine by me, as long as it enhances my party.
I'd like to know who you usually invite to your parties.
Free minds who are able to leave reality for an evening, who can taste forbidden fruit without prejudice. There is nothing that quite spices up life like these parties, assuming one is old enough and has worked many years for the good of one's country.
Oh, all true laborers, I see. What was Fabio like? His personality, his habits? Anything you can tell me?
He was the brightest star of my parties. Young, magnetic, and full of energy. I don't even want to mention his beauty. Otherwise, I'll be sobbing.
An expensive champion, I imagine.
His performances were flawless. He deserved his payment. Do you think he was murdered because of money?
Possibly. What about the other guests? Were they used to opening their wallets as well?
I wouldn't restrict my guests from anything. I'm sure Fabio received a few coins from others for his services.
Do you recognize this book? Could Matista have borrowed it from your library?
She didn't ask me. How ungrateful.
The things described in the book were inspiration for the rituals you perform?
Do you really believe that blood, symbols, and incantations can resurrect the dead? They are just eerie tales with a mix of occultism and voodoo. My rituals are a stage to show some of the forbidden pleasures. That's not something I know much about. I've no idea about that. You'd better ask someone else.
I've read this letter from Fabio. It had no addressee, but it was found in Mr. Vogel's pocket.
Werner? Strange. I didn't think the two of them corresponded.
I'm sure there is some explanation. Would you care to read it?
Call me superstitious, but I don't care to read a letter from a dead man. That's not something I know much about. That's not something I know much about. You'd better ask someone else. You'd better ask someone else. That's not something I know much about.
Do you have any idea who tipped off the police to raid your mansion, Mr. Manchios?
Of course. It was you. I could even say you Sherlocked me in here.
A good guess, but the wrong one. The fellow who did that was Mr. Pinchetti, your major domo.
What? Santos? But how could he even know? If he's not the murderer himself. The ungrateful swine. He has dared to besmirch my reputation.
Not a very eloquent choice of words.
What should I call him then, since he's a snitch? Make him talk, Sherlock. I'm quite certain he knows more about the murder than he has told the police.
Eso es lo que yo pensaba.
You'd better ask someone else. That's not something I know much about. I've no idea about that.
You bought an expensive pair of cufflinks for Fabio. Were they his price? Or were they a tip for an exclusive show?
It was pure business. Fabio escorted me a few times. I was merely showing my gratitude.
This pair cost a small fortune. You must be extremely grateful then. Tell me more.
You've thrust a knife in an exposed nerve, Sherlock. Yes, he was my protégé and my beacon also. With my experience and his beauty, we could have achieved anything. I had faith in him. I would have made him.
I'm Sherlock Holmes. I'm helping Constable Oswald. You are Matista, Fabio's friend.
This body, yes, it's Matista. But it's a mere shell that will die someday. Just like Fabio.
Please accept my condolences for your friend.
Thank you.
I'm just here to ask questions and find Fabio's murderer.
It will not bring Fabio back.
Se tatúa a sí misma. Nerviosa. Autoinfligida. Cejas y pocas visibles. Marca de quemadura infligida con hielo de marca. Como en Fabio. Arsenal reciente. Matista, la actriz social de Fabio, ha tenido una vida difícil. La marcaron como esclava, aún de niña. Durante su esclavitud conoció a Fabio, de ahí que sus marcas serán similares. Las cicatrices antiguas que tiene son el resultado de la vida como esclava durante su adolescencia. Aún la atormenta aquellas traumáticas experiencias. Matista parece haber adquirido cierto pragmatismo respecto de su cuerpo. Después de años de abuso, se vende a los invitados, que hacen con ella lo que quieren. No tiene miedo de cruzar línea alguna. Además, Matista se marca con tinta.
You have both old and new scars. Some from the time when you were a slave with Fabio. Other scars have a different origin. The guests pay good money to torment you?
I am skilled in giving pleasure, but I don't participate in such practices.
I thought your body was...
For sale? It's true. Many unwanted things were done to my body. And the pain helped me to discover...
Occult deities? Yes, the tattoo speaks loudly of it.
Yes. Your gods abandoned me, and the ones I favor now are more protective of me.
How did you escape?
Something happened. One night the master fell down the stairs. I made him fall, and he died. We ran away that day. We managed to get on a ship and traveled here, to Gordona. Fabio and I started a new life here. It was very hard at first, but it became better with time. Until today.
The bruises on your neck are not self-inflicted. Someone else made them.
Some guests can't contain themselves. They even bite, sometimes. I've nothing to say. I've nothing to add.
This book, The Power of Love, Blood, and Mandrake, what do you hope to achieve?
To learn more about the invisible strengths that govern us. Occultism is real. The master who fell that night when Fabio and I escaped, I made him fall. I cast a spell on him and it worked.
Or was it a coincidence?
The universe is rarely so lazy.
If you say so. This is the letter the police found in Mr. Vogel's pocket. Fabio wrote it. Do you know anything about it?
I don't. Although I can feel Fabio's energy. It's there, but it refuses to let me analyze it.
Do you practice occult rituals?
For protection? For fortune? To wash away the ugliness of the world? Sometimes to survive. I have the gift, and I'm learning to use it better.
Did you use your gift on Fabio?
I only used white magic. Love charms lately. Fabio became so distant. I just wanted him to be with me, but I suppose I'm not as skilled as I thought.
Matista sufrió magulladuras por todo el cuerpo por las brutales interacciones con los invitados de la fiesta. Fabio magulló a Matista. Durante su pelea en la sala de fumadores, Fabio magulló a Matista. Un manchillo se limpió la sangre después del ascenso de Fabio.
I don't think I can tell you anything about this. I can't follow you here.
So, the police found a letter from Fabio in your pocket.
I cannot tell if it was truly in my pocket at all. Perhaps it was placed there later.
Well, that is one hypothesis. If it were true, then how did it get there?
No clue. But this night has been rather eccentric. Such a detail could have easily eluded me.
Indeed. Do you recall reading it?
I can't remember that either. But I tend to respect privacy. Reading others' personal notes is not one of my perversities.
This area is restricted.
I can't wrap my head around such a tragedy at my party.
Can you satisfy my curiosity?
A solid question, sir, but I don't have the answer.
I know I can handle the news.
I can't wrap my head around such a tragedy at my party.
Machista puede haber usado el ritual con fuego para recuperar su amor. No sé.
I've nothing to say about this. I've nothing to say about this. You'd better ask me a question I know how to answer. I don't think I can tell you anything about this. I've nothing to say about this. I don't think I can tell you anything about this. I don't think I can tell you anything about this. I don't think I can tell you anything about this. I don't think I can tell you anything about this. I don't think I can tell you anything about this. I've nothing to say about this. You'd better ask me a question I know how to answer. You'd better ask me a question I know how to answer. You'd better ask me a question I know how to answer.
Have you considered Mr. Santos Pinchetti as a suspect?
The snitch? Have you seen him? I mean, my breath could knock him down. What's so special about him?
As a major domo, he has keys that open all the rooms, including the one to the crime scene. Could have testified only to circumvent suspicion, don't you think? We need to question him.
Right. I'll send our men to fetch him. Stay here. They brought him in, Mr. Holmes. Here's the key to interrogation room number 7. Mr. Pinchetti didn't even resist, our men said.
Thank you. Mr. Pinchetti, a pleasure to meet you. I'm Sherlock Holmes. I'm helping Constable Oswald.
I've already told him everything I know. I'm only a witness, sir. Everything's in my report.
And I've read it. You forgot to mention that you hold the keys to the room where Fabio was found. I need only to find if the crime was intentional.
But I need to return to my duties.
I doubt the house will fall without you, Mr. Pinchetti. Just be still for a few seconds.
Remendado a menudo. Psoriasis o alergia. Tenía más de una vez. El crudo de sangre. Santo Pinchetti es el jefe de servicio de la mansión. Mancho, a pesar de tener el rango más alto dentro del servicio, parece pobre. A pesar de que tiene dinero suficiente, el señor Pinchetti se gasta lo menos posible. El maquillaje barato oculta las imperfecciones de su piel. En un intento de parecer más moderno, el señor Pinchetti ha teñido su traje en varias ocasiones, para ahorrar aún más dinero. El mayordomo parece haber remendado él mismo varios agujeros del traje.
Is your greedy nature responsible for the lack of taste and attention to your appearance? The cheap makeup, shabby and dyed clothes? How do you explain those, Majordomo?
The means to practice my profession are limited. I'm sorry you noticed it, sir.
The parties overshadowed your state. You are lucky Kurt Manchios's attention was concentrated elsewhere. In a decent household, you would be asked to leave for far less.
Yes, his attention was undoubtedly concentrated on something other than my appearance.
But one detail stands out on your dirty rags and shoes. The drops of blood.
Oh, that. I don't know anything about it.
Te lo puso a alguien, ¿no?
Did you know Fabio?
Not personally. He was a frequent guest, and cleaning the mess after his performances was tedious. Mr. Manchios always had a role for him, and mainly the leading one. The parties were always Fabio-centric.
And Batista? Was she as popular as her partner?
Don't tell her I said this, but I do not think so. Mr. Manchios hired her only because Fabio refused to work without her. Mr. Manchios used to see her as a worker. She was tasked with entertaining the guests, unlike Fabio, who could pick and choose.
Pinchetti se dejó una mancha de sangre. Santo Pinchetti no se fija en una mancha de sangre en el costado de su zapato al deshacerse después del asesinato.
I recognize the key from the altar room among these.
Una breve nota adjunta al testamento dice: Santos, gusano optimista, me has rogado que te incluya en el testamento, y eso le he hecho. Esta es mi última revisión. Cool. El texto del testamento bajo la nota. Santo Pinchetti, el mayordomo de la mansión Manchio, recibe un tarro de cera de bigote y una lámpara de sal para que siempre recuerdes a su atento empleador, Kurt Manchos.
I've read the letter about your will. A harsh method of ridiculing Santos. I doubt he will use mustache wax when he wears no mustache to begin with.
Where did you get it? Is the slug here? Tell him I shouldn't have to provide for him. He's a grown man who shouldn't sit on his uncle's neck. He conceives himself as my only heir.
And who is he to you?
He's a leech on my aging body. He has only added problems to my life since the death of his mother.
I fail to see why you made him your major domo.
He needed to know his place, so I taught him.
I know I can handle the news.
Mr. Manchios says that you begged him to be included in the heritage. Isn't that a little extreme, even for a major domo?
He's not only my employer, he's my uncle. And I'm his next of kin. The only one. Mr. Manchios flatly refuses to pay a family member. All I have to do is repay his so-called love, cleaning up the filth after perverts and decadents. He's imprisoned me. The best I can hope for is a new broom. That's why I wanted to have my part of the inheritance.
Is it that bad? You have a roof above your head, a salary, and the status of a major domo.
For God's sake. I'm forced to dye and stitch my threadbare clothes, and the holes in my shoes are painful. I'm ashamed every time a guest looks at me closely.
Why do you think your uncle treats you this way?
My mother, my uncle's sister, had me illegitimately. She died, and I was given the surname of one of the maids.
But you are entitled to some of the money that belongs to your family.
He thinks not. I was not responsible for my mother's death. I work hard, and he pays me nothing. I feed on the leftovers. While he wastes our estate's property on decadent parties, he paid Fabio handsomely and showered him with expensive gifts. for their disgusting relationship.
Pinchetti se vio obligado a trabajar para Manchíos con la vana esperanza de que le deje la herencia, pero no lo hizo.
The air here is rather refreshing. I'd even recommend that some of my friends visit the place.
Según Santo Pincheri, y a jugar por el contenido de la carta, podría haber estado dirigida a Kurt Manchio.
There is undeniable evidence that you were the original recipient of this letter.
What are you talking about? Is it addressed to me?
Your protege wanted a fresh start, it seems. This is sufficient to charge you.
Me? Hurt my star? Are you insane that you would accuse me of such a thing?
He did not consider himself as yours. Since you deny everything, let's move on. Do you have any idea as to how the letter could have ended up in Mr. Vogel's pocket?
You were the detective. Perhaps he took it from Fabio. Werner was a little high.
I have reason to believe that the intended recipient of the incriminating letter may have been Kurt Manchios.
Well, that makes sense. Too bad I can't remember how I came to possess it. Though I did spend quite some time with Mr. Manchios during the party.
Unfortunately, even with an answer, that may still not be enough to clear you with the police. But fear not, I will persevere.
I hope your attempt to put things straight will make up for...
You being on a bender?
Touché.
Manchio se deshizo de la carta. Kurt Manchio le puso la carta a Werner Vogel en el bolsillo para hacer que pareciera sospechoso.
I can't wrap my head around such a tragedy at my party.
Please let me out.
This letter proves nothing. Fabio wrote it to Mr. Manchios. It's time to free Mr. Vogel.
Do you really think I'm that naive? I need proof, not words from his friend.
Very well. Mr. Pinchetti told me that Mr. Manchios was lavishing Fabio with expensive and eccentric gifts. The letter mentions rich rewards and attempts to buy Fabio with them. It was written to Mr. Manchios. Who else was showering Fabio with luxuries to buy him? It doesn't fit Mr. Vogel's character.
Look here. We had a deal. Give me the murderer and then take your friend with you. I won't budge otherwise.
Well, fine, but you're just wasting time. Could Fabio have written this letter to Kurt Manchios?
Oh. That could be. I never thought Mr. Manchios could make Fabio that angry, though.
What do you mean?
Well, Fabio wanted to disassociate from Mr. Manchios. Clients who are in love are both a blessing and a curse.
But Fabio was here tonight.
Money. In our line of work, we can't afford to turn down clients who pay as well as Kurt Manchios.
Was Fabio afraid of Mr. Manchios?
Not at all. The old toad wouldn't dare to do more than sweet talk and touching. Talk can be forgotten, and touching washed away.
I can't wrap my head around such a tragedy at my party.
Please let me out.
Are you done yet? Can I leave?
Continue our investigation while I look at the papers.
I can't wrap my head around such a tragedy at my party.
I know you can untangle this.
Yo no sé qué hacer. Crimen pasional. Manchios tenía el corazón roto y entró en pánico. No mató a Fabio a propósito. El ritual improvisado tiene un intento desesperado de encubrir el crimen. Una sentencia a prisión sería suficiente, peor castigo de la muerte de su amado. Un depredador sexual. Manchio mató a Fabio a sangre fría. Escenificó el crimen como un ritual para inculpar a Matista. Le metió la carta a Vogel en el bolsillo para evitar la entrada sospecha. No tiene concepción por la vida de los demás y merece el cadáver.
Continue our investigation while I look for the papers.
Ya tengo que hablar con este. Ay, me he equivocado.
The murder of Fabio did not have a ritual purpose, Mr. Manchios. It was staged by a man who wished to distract the investigation.
That might be true. That poor girl Matista wouldn't dare to kill the only man who cared for her. So, Santos.
Mr. Pinchetti snatched at the chance to solve his problems.
Ungrateful little scum. Will he be executed?
But what for? He informed the police as to the crime, that was all. He couldn't stage the ritual, but he found the body, I believe.
I can't believe it. Why did Werner do it?
Mr. Vogel. He had no reason, and he won't be a scapegoat as you plan. You put Fabio's letter in his pocket when he was intoxicated, didn't you?
You can't be serious.
You're at the twilight of your life. You have no partner, you have no children. You had feelings, however, for one man. That was Fabio. You loved him. That is, you wished to own him, with money and gifts. But he was also a free mind, was he not? He turned his back on it. Quite unjust. Love, so cruel and painful, and Fabio, with his words and deeds, made you feel the more wretched. So you killed him.
You must surely perceive that my sensitive nature wouldn't allow me to hurt anyone.
We can very often deduce someone's life by their shoes, or their fingernails. You are a meticulous person, but this murder was fairly traumatic and filthy. After you stabbed Fabio, you were covered in blood. You panicked and neglected to rinse the soap from under your fingernails. The devil is in the details, Mr. Manchios.
Nonsense. I missed it simply because of the busy schedule of the party.
Of course, a staged murder was certainly not planned. You staged the murder as a satanic ritual. It was easy for you, since you were the one who wrote the scenarios for the parties. It was your way of avoiding suspicion. A respectable man in his 60s,
Early 60s.
who hosts the cream of Cordona's society, cannot possibly be a murderer. But the guests who behave like animals in his mansion, of course, one of them could have killed Fabio.
I did oversee a few of the rituals, but I did not stage Fabio's death.
Fabio played with your feelings. That was painful to realize. You spent so much time and effort to be with Fabio, but he didn't respond in the way that you would have liked. You wanted to be loved, but Fabio shattered your dreams. In the smoking lounge, he teased and mocked you. He wanted you to suffer by offering himself to others. The deception was unbearable. You were passionate, and so you struck him. Once you understood your mistake, it was too late. You were afraid, so you staged the ritual. With such a story, you might be sentenced to a few years. It might clean your conscience, and soon the case will be forgotten.
No. No.
This is my decision. I'll talk to Constable Oswald to see what I can do. There's no fool like an old fool. Kurt Manchios did it. A young boy played with the heart of an old man. The latter couldn't handle it. The evidence I obtained clearly shows that the quarrel was not intended to end badly. It was an accident.
Showing pity towards your own kind, Holmes. Whatever.
All I'm saying is that prison won't take much away from an old and crushed man.
Fine. A big name like that will still give me a promotion. As for my part, not everything was in place. Perhaps some documents were transferred somewhere else, but I couldn't find a trace of them. Then I remembered. The discarded document drawers where we put the lost papers or the badly labelled ones. Including the crime scene report of Violet Holmes's case. Everything I've found is on the desk here. Take it.
Your persistence has saved me.
Yeah, well, we had a deal after all. Your friend is free then. You can leave.
Good luck, Constable.
Vale, va a dejar en la mesa. Informe número 0743. Al llegar los agentes encontraron a la fallecida, identificada como la señora Violet Holmes, tendida en el jardín de la mansión Stonewood. Un examen visual indicó que la víctima estaba completamente empapada, con una profunda incisión vertical de unos 5 centímetros de longitud a lo largo de la garganta. Tenía el rostro hinchado y cubierto de manchas rojas. Causa probable de la muerte: hipoxia. En la espera de la confirmación del forense. El sospechoso principal, Otto Riche, quedó arrestado y se le estaba practicando la autopsia al cadáver.
Garden. There's a garden behind our manor. How could I forget? That's where it all happened, where it all went wrong.
Sherry, it looks like you've almost found...
Oh, you did it, Sherlock! The case is closed and all rewards belong to the winner. Bravo!
It is merely the triumph of the truth.
Is it? No compromises? No lies? You're happy with your decision?
It was the best decision I could obtain. The truth must be told in the way it is most acceptable.
You're making progress, Sherlock. I was right to believe in you. By the way, did you get that precious information about your mother? Oh, not that you must.
Yes, I did.
Forgive my intrusion in such a personal matter. I simply worry I'm failing to be of much help to you.
Actually, you were. For some reason, all the archives on the case had disappeared. This was a rare opportunity to obtain the impossible.
Outrageous. Perhaps someone found the truth unpleasant. Society usually rejects those who speak with too much honesty, doesn't it?
A comfortable lie is often preferred to an uncomfortable truth. Still, I believe that the latter should prevail, and I cannot remain silent.
That's quixotism at its best. Your mere truth cannot defeat institutions, systems, and power. Etiquette, religion, marriage, they're all lies told to preserve connections, love, and sanity, and it's all corruptible.
Lies destroy human dignity. How could you make a free decision without any knowledge of the truth?
Are we really free to decide anything in this world, Sherlock?
Oh, yes. It's a struggle, but yes, we can make our own decisions. That's what I fight for.
And what an endless fight it is. Will you ever give yourself a break, Sherlock? You're a walking contradiction, Sherlock. You refuse to lie to others, but constantly lie to yourself. How long until the train comes off the track? I cannot look away, but perhaps I should take a few steps back. You're an accident waiting to happen, dear. Until then, I shall bid you adieu.
Pues bueno, pues lo vamos a dejar por aquí. Vamos a hacer una Ray. Está jugando DVD. Gracias por pasaros y nos vemos en el próximo video. Adiós.